Welcome to the Potion Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC. Let's kick it off, because we've got people watching and whatnot. How about you introduce yourself?
My name's Dean Serneels. That's about it. Yeah, I've been in this industry for 30 years now. I know I don't look that old, but alcohol is a preservative. So yeah, I've been just making drinks and just kind of riding this entire hospitality wave and seeing where it can go. And it's taken me into so many wonderful places and given me so many fantastic opportunities. So.
And how'd you get into it?
Coming to being on post shift with Shawn Soole. I mean, I've built up my career for this day.
Oh, you've made it now. You're on my show, so you've made it.
Exactly.
How'd you get in the game? Can you remember how you got in the game?
I do. And I don't know if I was in the game at that point, but I was pumping gas at a gas station in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, a petrol can. And it was a cold winter. I'd done it for a couple of years. I was still in high school. And a girlfriend at the time said, well, why don't you try bartending? And I took a bartending course, quite literally. I took a bartending course that was in the back of a house that was owned by an ex-bartender / stripper.
Oh, okay.
And I was 19. I was 18 at the time because I wasn't allowed to serve or taste the alcohol. I could serve it, but I wasn't allowed to taste it in Canada. So I was taking this bartending course before I could even legally drink. So
you're most notoriously known. I might jump ahead a little bit here. You're most notoriously known as one of the OG original flair tenders in the world. What got you into flair more than anything, especially in Burlington, Ontario?
Yeah, I mean, before I take status as the OG, there are many that predate me. Jimmy Skeetus and the show tenders guys down in Florida, and Michael Bombard and Mike Tully and stuff. But anyway, how did I get started in flair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bartending competitions. You know what? I have to confess that Tom Cruise and Cocktail came out the same year that I started bartending. I was 18 at the time, and thought, "Ooh, how cool is that?" And we started throwing bottles around and smashing bottles and making a mess. Of course, there wasn't any practicing or anything. It was just, why can't I do that? And then it grew from there. And through the 90s, there was some small bartending competitions that would pop up. I know Mike McLean was involved in a number of those in Kitchener, Waterloo, and that's how Mike and I met, doing these rinky-dink bartending competitions, and it just kind of kept growing from there. And then I'd go home and practice bartending, which I hadn't done yet. You don't go home to practice bartending, but that's what I started to do with flair. So yeah, just bartending competition after bartending competition, and then there wasn't any bartending competition, so I started running bartending competitions. I started growing a little group. What's that?
What year was this?
That was the early 90s. It was the early 90s when I was doing these little competitions, and then I started running competitions in 96. My first Quest was 1998.
Oof, Quest, classic.
Yeah, I really got into the game. Yeah. I was a bartender, and I was opening up restaurants and then part of the team for a small chain in Ontario. But I got in because I packaged up all my courage and went down to Quest to play with the big boys, and got it handed to me pretty bad. Yeah.
Small town Burlington, and like, how do you? How do you even feed? Because I think for doing literally get out from the 90s, mid-90s.
It was word of mouth going around. Word of mouth scenes. As you local, and as far as our word of mouth would spread. And the restaurant that I worked at a restaurant called Filthy McNasty's.
Oh, Jesus.
And I posted something on the Quest for the Best Bartender in America competition by Patrick Henry. And it was in Florida. And I said, you know what? I'm going to that. And I think he put that on the wall just to tease me into it, to say, hey, let's see if Dean gets up the courage to do that. and I did, and I haven't looked back since. So,
when was your first big? Did you ever I should ask this question properly? Did you ever have a big? Were you also the guy that was you sort of fell into that organizational side of things? Best flair.
I evolved. I didn't have any big wins. I think I came in 10th at King of the Ring in Las Vegas one year, only because Robin Clausen's music messed up in the qualifiers. That was like a championship. But I did fall back into, hey, how about I beat back? When I went home after Quest, I got back to all the guys back in, and it was Super and Mike McLean, and I said, gotta go to Quest. And we took a big group down, and we were loud and obnoxious, waving our Canadian flags, and Team Canada, and Sean Greco, and Jamie Cosgriff. So we had this big group of people that we went down with. So yeah, it was about supporting the craft and getting more people into it, because I was enjoying it so much and just loving being behind the bar and entertaining people, that I wanted to spread that word. So no big wins for me, but I was, I guess, lucky enough to climb my way to the top and become noticeable because of some toys that I invented. So that's kind of where that went. There, you got one. Is that a liter?
It's a 750, but you can tell how old it is just from the yellowing color.
Right.
It's burnt on the tip because I used to do I've had this. So I know that when we was New York Javits Center.
I've got a photograph of us somewhere in my stack
where I was a lot skinnier with a massive faux hawk.
Still equally as handsome.
January, and I fanboyed out. But nice flair contest. I was very similar a little bit in the way I never really got some flair tender, but I had to organize a competition and get as many people like Dusty Donuts. Brisbane was always pretty decent in Sydney, and I have years living in VHS, like and then and VHS and it comes to rewind and at the Javits Center, and I fanboyed out hard like I usually do with people that are a kid who never left Australia, and then all of a sudden is in Canada, and all of a sudden is in New York, and hanging out with. So just like I'm talking I posted last night about where and to make a reservation, and you gave to I think you went to Canada, like a flair bar that wasn't close to Milk and Honey, so you gave up your seat at Milk and Honey. You were doing bartenders,
the ugly,
and so you got a cab with from New York for the
right. It was television, I think. And I was on a few episodes. I was teaching the girls. I was the flair expert on that show. It was pretty fun. How do
you feel the industry in flair? Because I know that you're still a big part of it, and you've expanded. Well, you've expanded on different formats now. How do you see the flair industry? Because I'm not as plugged in. Evolved and changed over the last 10 years.
That's a long question, isn't it? This takes me back to standing in a parking lot at a Jack Astor's, which is another restaurant in Rochester, New York, with Tobin Ellis back in '99, maybe 2000. It was actually around the same time that the Flair bottle came out, because I have to give credit to Tobin for actually naming the Flair bottle the Flair bottle. I'd been on email with him just as he was starting up the Flair Bartenders Association, and back and forth, and I was wanting to create a fun, crazy name for the Flair bottle. And he's like, no, man, just call it a Flair bottle because that's what it is. So just name it what it is. So I followed his direction. But we talked back then about Flair being something that bartenders just naturally do because it's more efficient use of space and time behind the bar. So catching a glass behind your back while you're reaching for something else is actually faster to be a bartender with these little elements of flair and a little bit of style. And then flair became this huge thing of these massive bartending competitions in Las Vegas and in England and around the world, $10,000 prizes and whatnot. And I actually fault the Flair bottle for some of it, because we went from a level of difficulty where it was practical to be behind the bar to juggling and this incredible feats of skill that weren't practical behind the bar anymore. And the exhibition flair went to that because we had this Nerf bottle that could drop and break, and we didn't have any risk anymore. So fast forward to your question, 10 years ago, well, it was 2008 when the crash of 2008 brought down the competitive flair bartending and brought down Flairco as well, because the money just wasn't going in to support that anymore. And all the sponsorship money that vodka companies and the spirit companies and Finest Call, all that money that was being poured into the bartenders back then came out of flair and started going into mixology. So flair has really just kind of quiet in the background. I mean, we've got guys like you and Philip Duff and even Tobin Ellis and all these great guys that came out of the flair world that don't even talk about flair anymore because they're mixologists, right? They don't do it anymore. And it's almost, I even know Tobin Ellis did a talk about the F word being the flair word. So, but then I watch Instagram now, and I'm watching all these great bartenders, these great mixologists that are coming out. And I think it's finally taking that corner where flair is becoming a very cool and very acceptable thing behind the bar because it is becoming a more natural progression to creating a cocktail. And there's less people stepping back from the bar and going, hey, look at me, I'm a flair bartender, and then stepping up and making a drink.
Yeah.
They're incorporating all of it together. And that's where I think the beauty of flair bartending truly exists, is when you can seamlessly create a craft cocktail while doing a little bit of pizzazz and a little bit of style that doesn't take away from the creation of the drink.
Has that fallen into the competitions as well, more so? Are you seeing that sort of transcendence going into the cocktail, into the flair competitions as well?
We were doing that back in the 2000s. We were trying to incorporate that into bartending competitions. You know, you have to use a muddler, you have to press a drink, and we were trying to work forward. So I think it's there, but I don't know if I can think of an actual bartending competition that was just make a drink with a little bit of style and pizzazz and some flair without stepping back and juggling bottles. You know what I mean? And correct me if I'm wrong. If there's one out there, I'd love to see it.
I'd love to see it as well. So if you do see it, can you comment on below and I can pass it on to Dean? Because I remember we had long conversations about FBA rules and stuff like that, about the change towards like a mixology element to the thing, like great flair performance, and then you taste the drink and like, yeah, that's not palatable at all. I remember we did.
You said was doing a lot of great work with that too.
I judged a few and emceed a few competitions in Boston, up at the New England Bar Show, and that was one that we sort of had a one cocktail had to be palatable, had to be actually like drinkable, and
but that was in the rules that one of the drinks that the bartender on stage makes has to be
like you get extra points for it being palatable.
Well, I hope we've come a long way since then. When was that?
That would have been 2009. Yeah, 2009, 2010. I think I went to the New England Bar Show at Twin Rivers. Okay. So, and we had a flair competition there. It was a massive bar show. We had a mixology cocktail competition on the main stage, and then at night we did a flair competition. I think there's a skinny faux hawk photo of me kicking around on that one too. Nick Nimeth just commented and said, "Hi, gents."
Oh, nice. Hello, Nick.
One of the junior. He's come a long way. So, how has your career changed in the last 10 years? Like, how did you end up in Kentucky?
I had, my career has been 10 years of back-breaking, just crashing, making cocktails in St. Catharines and Southern Ontario, just behind the bar, cranking out drinks. And then I had about 10 years of Flairco and traveling the world doing flair bartending competitions and consulting and whatnot. And that led me to a very unique opportunity. I was at a Rob Houston competition in Florida, and Flairco had just started to take a downturn, and bottle sales were starting to go down. Then we also had some internal conflicts, and Flairco was about to go down, or die a proper death, I guess. And Bill Hinkebein came along. He might be out there somewhere. Hey, Bill, I'm working today. And he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Dean, we're looking for someone to join our organization." He did not intend for me to be that person, but said, "Do you know anybody that can maybe do a little flair, but can talk mixology, can be gregarious, and represent our brand? Do you know anybody?" And I said, "Bill, I'm not sure, but let me look around. Let me think about it." And then 3 days later, I called him back and said, "I want to throw my hat in the ring."
Did you actually look around, or did you just go, "Screw it, I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring"?
I knew my hat was going in the ring, and I certainly didn't go looking around or tell anybody about it, because I knew it was the opportunity that I needed to take next. I had looked around in Toronto for consulting jobs and that kind of thing. I was with Bulls for a while, doing a cocktail program with them, and it was a fantastic program. I left there to pursue Flairco and try to get that ship right. And then I wanted to go back, but it just wasn't going to work. So yeah, I called him up and said, "I want to throw my hat in the ring." And he came to Niagara Falls, had an interview in my basement, got to pet my dog and meet my family and realized that I was a real human. And the rest, I packed up my family, packed up a car, and put a canoe on the back of the car, and we drove 10 hours across the country to move to, I'm in New Albany, Indiana, which is just outside of Louisville, Kentucky. So.
Wow. How long have you been there for?
10 years now. 10 years. January past was my 10-year anniversary here at American Beverage Marketers with Finest Call, Royale, and Master of Mixes, Agalima. This company has evolved quite a bit itself.
So what's your role specifically for them?
My title is Director of Beverage Applications. So what I like to say, we did everything we could to not call me mixologist.
That's fair.
So and you see lots of those director of beverage around. So I basically take the product after it's been produced. I consult with the team, our marketing, and everyone else involved of what new flavors are coming, and I help give some direction on what that flavor should be, and how the quality of it, that kind of stuff. And then we'll actually deconstruct my cocktails. So if we're making an old-fashioned mix, I make my old-fashioned. We tweak it to make sure that it's perfect. And then our technical department will go and deconstruct my recipe and recreate it down in the plant and put it into a bottle. So then I take that bottle and make it into cocktails. So I'll take our single press lime juice and show all the different ways that we can do a cocktail with our single press lime juice or the agave real, any of the great flavors we have. And then I go out and talk about it. I go to events like in Vegas, the conventions, and I hang out at the trade show booths. But I also take invitations from our sales team that works directly with the national accounts. So Buffalo Wild Wings, Hard Rock Cafes, and all those national accounts that are out there. We have a salesperson that works directly with them, and that salesperson will come to me and say, "Hey, this particular company wants to go in this direction with a cocktail. What do you think?" And then I work directly with those restaurants to create cocktails to see if they do or do not want to put them on the menu. So yeah, I'm just making cocktails all day.
Wow. And you get to travel a lot too?
Yeah. There's a fair amount of travel in there. Quite a lot, actually, more than I expected when I first moved down. But it's been fantastic. It's mostly U.S. based. Just the beginning of this year, I got over to London and Amsterdam for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was super fantastic. But it's been all over the United States and much of Canada as well. And then I was in Caribbean as well. I was supposed to be in Hawaii just when this COVID thing broke out, but
Yeah. Is this your basement bar that we're sitting in right now?
This is my office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is actually one portion of my office. This is where we host groups. That's a big part of what I do. We well, prior to COVID, of course, we would host 50 to 80 groups a year from our distributors around the world to our restaurant groups. So the buyer for a restaurant group would come in specifically and hang out at my bar. We'd spend all afternoon making cocktails with our products and the spirits that they have. And it would just be a one-on-one with myself and that buyer. And they'll go home and put those cocktails on a menu. So this room is my office, or part of my office. That's a cardboard cutout of one of our guys.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big room, and I could
That's
take you on a
gorgeous.
tour. I've got a kitchen on the other side of here that has all the fridges and my liquor stock, and then I've got another room that's an office, and then a fourth room that I'm changing into a video studio with the anticipation of so much new video content that I think I'm going to be creating. I'm making a little video studio in there. I was hoping to use it today, but it's not quite ready. So.
Well, it's a good segue. Recently, like you've sort of started getting back into taking back the title of Mad Mixologist and sort of re-owning the title that you've had for years and years and years. What did you sort of regain back into the videos and stuff? Because you've been doing videos since the late 90s and
Right.
VHS tapes. And what sort of pushed you to get back into it?
I wanted to explore some new territory, and I've been watching so many people get successful on YouTube, not as a money making thing, but just as a way of sharing their message. And Tom Dyer is doing a great job, and and in TV in college before I got Ceremonious to Kill. I wanted to try it and have a taste at it and take a run at it.
Has it been fulfilling for you?
Heavily. I look at the Flair bottle and the Flair videos and all that stuff, and people still recognize me today as, oh yeah, you're the Flair bottle guy. But I feel like we're of the football team, and oh yeah, that was it, but I wanted something new to say, hey, I've got more things to share with a wider range of audience than just some salespeople and buyers at restaurants and in groups that come in here, which is really fun, and I love entertaining them. But I think there's a group of people out there that want to learn how to entertain from the bar, and that's where I saw that there was an opening. There's so many mixology videos and so many flair guys out there, but I don't see a lot of bar magic, copyright.
Trade music 50 cents.
Something I do.
Just the terminal royalties cash.
Yeah. So he'll get my 401k when all this is over. But yeah, I have so much fun entertaining people from behind the bar. I make a great, memorable. I had a great bar last night. I always want people going, bartender, I think his name was Dean. We got to go back to see him. And I built my career when I was bartending back in the 90s and 2000s on being memorable and having people come back to the bar to see me. They weren't coming back just because it was wing night or $2 drink night. And yes, that did happen back in the day. They came back because they knew that I would entertain them and take care of them. So that's how I built my own clientele as a bartender. So when I moved from bar to bar, just like a hairstylist would, they take their clientele with them, and my clientele would follow me and be entertained by what I do. So that's what I wanted to do with the videos, is create something more entertaining and try to show all the sides of me. There's mixology and flair and magic, and then I'm meeting all the great people. So I'm trying to interview like you are once a month. And then show mixology and show mixology tricks and, just some of the crazier things that we do. So super long answer.
The long answers are good. With entertaining, like a mass form, it's something that's very new. Is that why you got into the whole circus, magic, trapeze? And I think your family was it as well?
Yeah, my entire family is involved in it. it's this local circus program called Turner Circus. And when we moved to Indiana, I saw a post on Groupon, I think it was, and they said trapeze lessons for $10 or whatever. And I thought this would be a fun thing to take my family to. And we took them to this 1-day class, and I thought this is a really neat thing. And of course, I'm a juggler. I've always been a juggler behind the bar, fire eating and flipping bottles, and I've always done magic behind the bar as well. I used to actually be a professional magician. I used to work 3 or 4 nights a week just doing close-up magic at different restaurants. So I've always had my hand in entertaining people. So I took the family, and they kind of enjoyed it. And then we watched the first show that this group does a big circus presentation every March. And there's 200 or 300 people involved, well, 200 people involved in it. And I just kind of fell in love with it and said, this is really crazy. It's so different. And they encourage you to eat fire. And they're teaching other moms and dads how to eat fire and how to juggle knives and do trapeze and whatnot. My girlfriend, Allison, is actually a coach now. She coaches the trapeze act. And my daughter, Megan, is she's a superstar there. She spent the last 10 years, instead of learning gymnastics or something, how to entertain on a silk like Cirque du Soleil. She's been to California to study, and she's really, really enjoying it. Yeah. We got her involved in a couple of things last summer that were really great for her and her career. She got to live in California for a month. So,
is her goal as a career-wise getting into this, staying as this, or is this going to still stay as a sort of a hobby side hustle that looks really great on resumes and whatnot?
Right. She would like to, but after she came back from California, she realized that the people in Cirque du Soleil, as beautiful and graceful they are athletes that practice and work out every single day. And then their job is to work out and stay in shape for the 5 minutes of stage time. You know, they're spending the rest 8 hours of the day eating right and doing sit-ups and crunches and whatnot, and far more, of course. So she realized then that it's probably not a goal for her to get on stage, but she does want to use it in her career. She's looking to get into medical fitness and working with people to do stretching and to stay in shape, and she wants to use that for that. So.
What's your plan for the rest of the year?
Tumbles and whatnot. I wanted to mention my son and his girlfriend too. They eat fire, and my daughter's girlfriend eats fire as well, so she's in it. Everybody's involved in it. So, yeah. Everybody
eats fire. Just must be a fantastic Thanksgiving. Just must be a really great, exciting Thanksgiving dinner.
So, what do you want tonight? I don't know. You want a Netflix or go outside and eat fire? No. So my girlfriend and I are juggling fire in the backyard, and the neighbors are now coming out to watch us perform in the backyard. So, it's something. It's, everybody needs something to focus on and practice that gets you outside of your mindset to relax your brain on your regular day to day.
Are you practicing even more now with all the time on your hand?
No, I'm figuring out how to edit. I'm figuring out how to work Final Cut Pro 10 and doing that kind of thing. So just so busy. I feel busier now because, work for me, I still come into the office every day, but my directions have changed. And now we're planning for what we're going to do when COVID's over. And there's going to be a mad rush back into the bars and a big change in the bars. I predict what's going to happen after COVID, with freshly squeezed and craft cocktails. And I had a conversation with a guy today, one of my sales guys, who said that lime garnish on the glass is going to be gone. Like, we can't even garnish cocktails anymore. So I'm trying to figure out how that's going to impact what we do.
I've had a lot of conversations about lower touch cocktails, batches and bottled and stuff like that. Stuff that has less touches. You can't have a 14 touch cocktail anymore. Everybody likes that, but front postal.
Right. Well, like I said, there's a lot of video work that I'm doing right now. I am going to pursue more YouTube with Mad Mixologist. I think I am going to actually step away from Mad Mixologist and rebrand it just Dean Serneels. Give me a heads up on that. As much fun as Mad Mixologist is, just being Dean Serneels, more people recognize that name than Mixologist chasing that around. But anyway, I do want to continue inspiring people to entertain from behind the bar. I do think that could be something super important in the new, in the post-COVID world, to keep people coming into the bar, if there is even bartenders. And our company, Finest Call and Real, we've been creating great cocktail mixes with single press lemon juice and single press lime juice to help reduce the touches long before COVID and help people get high quality ingredients into a cocktail without having to farm it themselves, and bracing ourselves for a new community of people that usually all only fresh squeeze and we have them with our high quality juices and syrups and whatnot. So I think I'm going to be super busy.
Well, I also think the middle market, not necessarily the upper echelon or the lower market, is where the fat is, and that's what's going to be continuing relatively strong, your franchises and the brands that you guys already work with heavily. So I think that it's going to go deeper. Like it's going to be weird. I've talked to a few people who are doing drink, not legislation, but drink systems going forward here in BC. And I'm very curious about like open containers, like glasses of wine and beer, tap beer instead of bottle beer, opened at the table sort of thing. You know, like pint of beer being taken 20, 30 feet to the table in an open container compared to something that's closed off. So just weird.
All these nuances, you know, that we haven't even thought through all of that. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there thinking that through. So much is going to have to change, and I'm kind of glad they're opening at 25% or 50% at a time, because we got to figure out how to do it again, you know.
And you're right next door to Kentucky too, which doesn't really help.
Well, we've got a lot of bourbon to help wash it down. So
you've had comments on Facebook. You've had Steve Schneider say howdy, and
howdy. He's a circus boy.
He is.
Actually, which Steve Snyder? I do have a Steve Snyder friend that's in circus, but there's a Steve Snyder
employees only. Steve Schneider.
Yes. Well, thank you I'm honored that he's out here.
He was a big one with Dorio, like trying to bridge the gap between mixology and flair. Like, yes. They did a lot of work there. And Mr. Duff even made an appearance.
Mr. Duff has made an appearance.
Yeah. He says, "Yo, Dean."
Duff, reluctantly, I have to top my hat to him. Thank you.
I did a live stream with him.
Into this mixology thing years ago with Bowls. It was Duff that showed me how to create a cocktail properly. 10 hours a day with him and Grant Real. From BC, and 10 hours a day of Duff pounding mixology into my brain.
He's a tough man to he's a tough man to work with because he is such a perfectionist, and he just really just pulls the best out of you.
Right. But if Sean Finter can say that I'm nuts, he's got to have something to say about Philip Duff.
So last piece of advice before I let you go, for someone that I think it's difficult in this day and age because of the internet, for someone who is a bartender or a flair tender, mixologist, whatever, in small city Canada, in small town Canada, what's your best piece of advice to give to them to make the leap probably out of their comfort zone and to push themselves towards what they want to do? Because you're one of the original like drinks entrepreneurs with Flair Co, and you've done a ton that is super reflective for people getting into the industry, people who run businesses in the industry, taking that next step to be a drinks consultant for a big brand. What's your piece of advice for a young bartender who's looking to make the change up and the switch up?
Right. Well, first off, I am incredibly honored when I hear stories of guys like yourself and so many other people that say, hey, you know what, I got started because of Dean back in the day. I'm just so humbled by that, and I thank you. And it just blows me away that I had that much impact when I was just kind of chasing my own craziness. And that's the advice that I give to a young bartender out there who wants to make a name of himself or do something more. Don't chase the name for yourself, but chase the doing something that makes people notice that you're out there, and don't be afraid. If you want to throw a bottle and catch it behind your back, yes, the other people in the bar are going to say, "Oh, you can't do that," because you're making some of them look bad. And try new things, and don't be afraid to ruffle feathers a little bit, and keep working on different things, and have many mentors. Follow your career and find out what you've been doing, and then Steve Schneider, and then follow so many different people, and take a little bit from everybody to create what it is that you want to be. I don't know if I can be more articulate about that. Because that's really what I did. I just started going, and I started flipping bottles, and people were like, "What the hell are you doing? Get out of my way." And I'm like, "I'm flipping bottles." And just kind of one door after another opened. And as long as you walk through those doors that open, they will continue to open. But if you don't walk through those doors, then no more. Well, I mean, they're not going to continue to open. There won't be a corridor if you don't keep walking through those doors and trying new things. When they came to me and said, "Hey, we want you to move to Kentucky," I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? How do I be a consultant for 200 restaurant chains? And I just packed up my stuff and said, I'll go figure it out when I get there. So that would be my advice to a bartender that wants to get into it. Just try many new things, and don't give up on it. And taste all your drinks and make sure they're delicious before they cross the bar. Or perfect your recipes anyway.
I want to thank you for your time, man. You've always been a massive hero and mentor of mine. So having an opportunity to sort of get to the bottom of the story and hear about small town Ontario and Queston, Florida in the mid-90s, it's nice. And I think a lot of flair tenders look up to you, and they still continue to look up to you. And I think you've made a huge impact on the industry, flair and mixology.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Locked in my little office in here, I don't always get to see the impact out there. So hearing it from you, I really do appreciate it. And thanks for having me on the show. I'm honored to be among your guests.
And honored that I put a jacket on.
Yes. Thank you very much. I had to beat you into it, though. I'm like, you gotta dress up. Come on, man. We're on TV.
Hey,
cool.
brother, well, you have a good day, and I'll talk to you really soon, okay?
You for tuning in and watching. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you guys out online and in the funny pages.
See you later, buddy.
All right, take care, man.
Thanks for listening, Pose Shifters. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up, and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.